I mean, when you look at our borrowings within the last 7 years from our domestic banks, especially prior to COVID, we did not even borrow as much as, let's say, $40-50 million prior to COVID. Since COVID, we have had some small facilities. ECAB gave us a loan of $50 million. ACB would have given us an overdraft of $5 million. So our borrowings have been minimal. And we said to them, too, that one of the reasons why we're not rushing into an IMF program is that we're not absolutely sure that we need IMF money. Because as it stands now, we are seeking a policy-based loan from the CDB for 50 million US. And we should be coming into another 27 million US dollars late in the year. We think that the 77 million US dollars plus some other things that we're doing that will create revenue, the new revenue measures that we have introduced, and we have one other to introduce next week when we go to Parliament. That is the TAPA. This is the, what do you call it, the tourism accommodation tax. That along with the fact that we have put systems in place to reduce the amount of discretionary concessions, we should see an increase in revenue by maybe $150-200 million. So we have said to them, yes, we'll continue discussion with the IMF so that if the situation with COVID persists and the economic wounds, they become deeper and that we need additional funding, then sure, we'll engage IMF. But as it stands now, we said to them that there was no need at this point for us to engage IMF immediately. What we need immediately is the 50 million US dollars, the policy-based loan from CDB to provide budgetary support. So we had very good discussions, and what is also important too, the medium-term strategy that we put together, the IMF would have looked at it and they say that it will certainly work. Where we differ is that the assessment of our fund requirement, in which they're suggesting that we should probably incur maybe up to another $800-900 million in debt. We have said to them, no way we're going to take on that kind of debt, because one of the problems that we had, even prior to COVID, is that between salaries and wages and debt service, they took up practically all of the tax revenue. So we had to rely on CIP income to deal with other expenditure. And it really created a strain. So we do not want to incur too much debt. I mean, we could take the irresponsible position that the former UPP administration took. You find, for example, they got $120 million US from IMF. They got $50 million from CDB. They got another $50 million from Venezuela. Recall when former Prime Minister Barney Spencer said he called up the late Hugo Chavez, and a few days later they sent him 50 million US. That loan is still in the books, has not been repaid. So when you look at the fact that between those three facilities, and there are other borrowings too, that they borrowed $200 million and we did not see any growth. In fact, you know what happened? The economy continued to decline. All it did was to waste the money and all them roads that they overpriced and so on, charging $10 million for a mile of road. And then at one point you had ministers who had proxy contractors. Some of them came from the Middle East, and they used our money and built big loans in the Middle East. All we were required to do was to give the ministers involved a little $10,000 a month. And some of them too, they thought that those individuals, so-called investors of Middle Eastern extraction, that they were literally holding money to them. But after the loss, those individuals said to them, sorry, I mean, you don't have the shares in this business. So they eventually lost out while they turned a blind eye